All right, here we go. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so the subject is nesting dolls, and the purpose is to do loose and detailed work, both. You're using stain colors only, and we are focusing on line, the use of line, our color, and creating pattern and variety. So those are just things that we're wanting to be mindful of in this assignment. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this small so that I can do a quicker demonstration. And like I said, the assignment is dolls, so more than one. I like all of these. I don't think I'm going to do all of them just for the intention of creating this demonstration. Maybe I'll do 3 because I think that's enough. As before that I mentioned, if drawing is not your strong suit and you want to copy or transfer the work, you can. Okay, it's up to you. Before I get into the detail of that, I think I just want to get the other drawing started, the other objects, and make sure that the size relationship is working. I have my trusty eraser. And I think I like the small, medium, and large variety. So I'm going to omit this one, or maybe I'll put this one on the other side because I like the size of that. I think it's really cute. If you want to do all of them, that's great. Just because I don't want to spend too much time on it, I'm not going to do all of them. Does anyone happen to have dolls like this, nesting dolls?
I do, but they're in my Christmas boxes.
Oh,
I do too.
No,
yeah.
never bought them.
Yeah, me neither. They're cute though.
My mother-in-law bought them for my daughter years ago when she was in, I think, Russia, or she was overseas.
Oh, that's nice. Oops, I'm gonna make that rounded. I think part of what makes it the bigger dolls, interesting is how their arms are just kind of by the side and squished onto that shape. Okay. All right. For all intents and purposes, that is it. Nail down this. And I know that this is a little crooked because of my point of view. All right. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the wash. And I'm going to do wet into wet. And my background here is just plain old gray. So what I want to do is maybe create more of a colorful wash for the background that'll be muted. not muted, but vibrant, but not too bright. I'm
Will
just gonna.
you still be using a stain for the background then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So that means I'm going to mix them. And I have a very dirty palette here. But I think there's some interesting colors in there. I'm gonna. Right here, you can't really see that I'm adding this, but I've got that, the yellow, lemon yellow. And all I really need is red, yellow, and blue, but I'm gonna use this cerulean. Which I don't know if it looks more like a staining color to me. Okay. I'm just gonna test some of these colors up at the top to show you how, if it's a stain color, what really happens with the stain. And this blue, this is the cerulean blue. So I'm gonna see if that indeed is a stain. If I have trouble lifting it up after it dries, let it dry. Pretty sure my lemon yellow will not come up too much after it dries. And anacridone red. Or rose. This is a really bright, lovely color. This is basically like CMYK right here. I think it's interesting because if we were to use the true colors to the true colors for combining, I think it would be CMYK rather than red, yellow, and green. Okay. I'm gonna get those, let those be. I'm gonna do a wash. I don't see any area of this that is white or that I want to reserve, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make a colorful wash for all of it. I do have I have a flat brush here, and I'm gonna maybe use that and just apply water. It's there's a little bit of paint in it. It's just a little bit of yellow. You can kind of see the yellow in it. But what I'm gonna do is, and that's very, very wet. I think I don't want to use as much water just because I don't have a blow dryer to kind of speed this up. So I'm gonna I'm gonna use less water. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just mix up some of these colors, and I got this quinacridone red, rose, sorry, and I'm gonna mix some of that in, putting some water in there. And then I'm gonna just kind of look at where I might want to play with adding some of this color in and drop it in. Now I'm being really loose, right? Very loose. I'm gonna add some yellow in here. And I'm gonna mix it on the page. And I know that's one of the things that I have in the faces is that they are peach, they're like, they're a very light skin tone color. So I can kind of mix that up so that there is that color in there, and I can use that as the wash, or the wash color that I use, I can use that so that that stays. Again, now I'm gonna switch over to the blue, the cerulean blue, and add that to this. I know this is dirty. I should probably clean that. If I'm gonna stay true to my assignment and not have any CAD colors in here. I should probably clean this up. Oh, and just as an aside, I don't know if any of you are interested, but I will be doing a appearance at Disneyland this Saturday and the Wonderground Gallery in downtown Disney. I will be debuting my latest Disney piece, Little Mermaid, that I did for the latest live action Little Mermaid movie. I'll be there signing my art. Saturday, June 29th, I will be at Wonderground Gallery from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then I will be at the Disneyana Gallery in Disneyland from 2 to 4. Just so you know.
Already got my ticket.
Who said that? Marty?
Marty. Yeah.
Awesome. Are you bringing your fam
My daughter has a pass, so I'll be bringing her.
and the grandson?
I don't know.
To see that cute little thing. Okay, that's fine. I understand. I understand. I'm just happy to hear that you are planning to come. That's wonderful. Makes
He
me-
may be with his other grandma that day.
Oh, okay. You never have too much love, grandkids, right? Okay. So adding some color here. This is very, very loose and expressive, right? So, okay, I think I like that. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue to some of these areas here. And that's gonna dry in an interesting way. Okay, and for the interest of time, I'm just gonna suck up some of this paint so that I'm not waiting forever for this to dry. And I'll add even more color to some of this area just to give it more intensity. I'm basically going straight into the paint. There's a little bit, yeah. I'm not adding more water. I'm sucking it up, or I'm just adding paint directly to, from the palette directly to the paper. That's really pretty green. And that's combining in a really nice way. Okay, there's a little bit of a weird thing happening there. Okay. All right, so that's gonna do something interesting. I might actually add a little bit more color down here because there is some red in here, and I know that's gonna do something fun when I add the green to it. And I can add, oh, there is a little bit of white there. Oh, darn it, I forgot about that. That's okay. I'll just, no, it is what it is. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to that area. It's just spreading. Okay. Now, I'm gonna wait for that to dry a little bit. No, you know what? I'm not. I'm just gonna keep going because I'm gonna make it loosey-goosey. Okay, so now I'm gonna go, while this is still wet, I'm gonna paint this one here. I'm gonna mix up my quinacridone red. I'm gonna add a little bit of the blue to get it a little bit deeper. It's probably not gonna get too deep, but I want it to be more, cooler. I don't know if I can get it there. Also, I don't have to make it exactly the same color because I'm not using the same colors as are in this image. So I'm changing this to purple. This is very, very wet. Obviously, it's spreading. It's doing some crazy stuff. I'm gonna, too much yellow. I'm gonna add just the yellow pigment in here. While it's still very wet. And I'll come in and use some of this yellow while it's still very wet. And actually, because this is green, I'm gonna combine the yellow with a blue. Come in here with this yellow. And then this little guy right here. Can't really see it. But this little guy right here is yellow. And I made this one over here, so I'm gonna add this little guy there. Okay. Still moving on to painting wet into wet. This blue, there's cerulean. I'm going straight into the palette, but I'm spreading it out a little bit so I don't have its globs of paint landing on the paper. And you know, I've completely obliterated the white buttons there, but that's something that I could use later on, as I could come back when that's dry and I can add the white buttons in if I wanted to. Okay, there's a little blue bag right there. I'm adding that in there. Okay, this is just a big colorful mess right now, is it not? So, loose. Okay, as this dries, I can start to refine some of these things a little bit more by creating more harder edges in my shapes. Now what I'm going to do is come in here and to my areas where the paint is. I'm going to use this cute little sponge. I'm going to wet it and see if I can lift up. This is a very, very dry sponge. Okay. We'll see. Okay. It is lifting up a little bit. No, it's not lifting, it's just spreading. Okay. Let's see if I put a little bit of water here and here and here. Okay, see how that's not really coming up? Okay, see what happens in the blue. Okay, it's coming up a little bit on the blue. So that blue is more of a sediment color. I might have to use the phthalo blue, that makes more sense. And that lemon yellow, that's coming up as well. So maybe that has a little bit of a sediment to it, but let's see. And part of the reason why I want you to use stains is because I want you to use that glazing, layering technique, which I didn't mention. But let's see, I do have a phthalo blue right here, which is really, really bright. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. And I'm going to use that in this area too, because this is a really beautiful blue. It's very intense. It's not even the right blue, but I'm okay with that. Okay. All right. It's very loose. There is no direct light on here. This is a very ambient light. There's not a whole lot of highlights. There's a tiny little bit of highlight there and a little bit of a highlight there. What I'm saying is there's really no cast shadow because there's no direct light source. But I could create the sense of a shadow form on the ground surface or on the surface plane by taking my blue and my red and my yellow, kind of mixing that up a little bit, maybe getting this kind of a brown or a little bit of a more of a muted color. And I can add that in to the ground or the surface just to give it some kind of a sense of being on the tabletop. I do have this black part here that I probably will use until I will wait till the very end to add that. But for now I could probably add some color right on top of it. Okay. This is very buckly because of how wet the paper is, and I don't have it taped down. This is also not arches, it's just your, like, Canson watercolor paper. It's not even the best. You know, that the cerulean or the phthalo blue is dry. I'm gonna see if I can lift up on that, adding water. Oh yeah, look at that. It lifted up. What do you know? Okay. So, bright colors. Let's just change this from stain colors to using stain colors or bright colors. Intense colors. All right. This feels a little bit more dry. This is still very wet. So I'm going to start working on the top here. And this is green. There's also some details here. If I wanted to use the white gel pen for that, I could come back and use a white gel pen and then, I don't know, maybe add red to that, or I could maybe add these red areas now, paint around it. Trying to figure out what to do here. I think I'm going to leave an opening for that to have these red flowers as best as I can. Okay, I'm gonna add some yellow to that blue. So it's a little bit more green. There we go. Okay, I'm using a 10. This is a very large brush. If you want to keep things loose, you can use a large brush. If you want to get more detailed, you can probably start to use a smaller brush. Okay, so I'm going to omit all of these flowers. I'm just going to put leave a couple of places, oops, for that red to be, and maybe negatively paint some shapes around there so that I can add a red color in there later. And because it'll be right on top of the yellow, it'll be vibrant. If I put green on this whole thing and then come back later with the red is going to be seen on top of the green. The green is going to come through, and I won't get that vibrant bright color like I am now. So I left that there, and I think there's a little bit more green here. Okay. Now there's the same thing with the flowers down there, and I could just continue to be very careful in negatively painting those flowers, and meaning I'm going to leave a little bit of a space for those areas. And I'm not getting the design quite accurately, but also I am doing this quite fast, and I'm making simplifying choices, meaning I'm making these decisions intentionally to simplify the work. I think I'm going to leave that open just because. Oops, I'm losing that. That's okay. And there's a blue bag. I'm going to put there. And I know that there's these yellow dashes down there. I'm not going to get those in quite right, but I can get them in kind of a little bit. I haven't done anything other than just take the color from straight there. So now I'm going to start to add a little bit of variance to it and just go back into the blue, mix it into the green. And I have a shadow, more of a shadow side on the left side. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue on that side just to get a little darker. And maybe I'll do it on both sides actually, because that will give me that feeling of form if I have a darker color around the edges. And it's still wet, so I can just plop that color in. And it's gonna merge those other, and merge in that other area. Okay, that'll work. Okay. It's not quite the green, but it is a little bit green. Okay. Now I'm gonna go into this area and do that blue. And I'm gonna go straight into the phthalo. It's very, very, very intense. I can add a little bit of the quinacridone rose to get it a little bit deeper. Okay. And it's a little bit drier now, so I'm getting crisper edges as I paint. It's not running all over the page as it was before. And I'm gonna go ahead and just paint right on top of where those buttons were, because I have decided that I am going to paint those in with white gel pen or draw them in with white gel pen later. Okay, and because it's a little bit darker on the edge, I'm gonna bring in this red, which is gonna alter it to a little bit of a purple on the side. And I wonder if I could lighten it up a little bit in the middle. I'm gonna clean my brush, dry it, and then see if I can kind of lift up a little bit. Yeah, I can. And that's gonna lighten that center up, and it's gonna give more of a sense of form. I don't want this to feel too overworked. I'm just trying to lift up on that area, but okay. So there's a feeling of lightness on the front. I've added that dark area in the back, and there's a little bit of a leakage there. That's okay. It is what it is. Okay. This is the Zen approach to watercolor. It is what it is. So while that's wet, I'm gonna move on to this little gal over here. So that's all yellow. I think that's okay to keep that yellow, but maybe I will add a bit more yellow, maybe a touch of the red to see if I can warm that up a bit. It's too much. And then what I can do is, since it's warmer, I can use that same principle of darker color on the edge and lighter in the center to give it that sense of form. And because I know this is lifting up a little bit more than I thought before, I'm gonna wet this brush, dry it, and then I'm gonna lift up in the center because it's still wet, it's coming up. Okay. Now that's wet. I don't want to paint anything next to it. This is wet. I can't paint anything there. This is still wet. So, but this area is completely open. So I'm going to go in there and see if I can get that black. But I don't want it to be black. I do want it to be dark. But I also know that if I make this area really dark, it's going to be the spot in the middle of the page. And I don't want it to call too much attention to itself. But I'm going to mix all of my colors together. My rose, my blue, and my yellow. And I'm going to try and do it in equal parts so that maybe I can get a good neutral dark value. And that is nice because it is got all the colors in it, but it's not too black. It's going to be balanced because I'm using only these three colors. And this is more of a, I really like that actually. It's kind of more of a bluish green. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use this color here. It's very, very wet still. And I'll do the same thing that I did before, which is paint it all in. And then lift up in the center. Very, very wet. Okay. Okay, and all this stuff is still very, very soft. Everything is still very, very loose. And as I go more and more into it, I'm just gonna start to refine things even more and more. And I'm even gonna come in, I think because I want to utilize line as a part of this exercise, I'm gonna bring in the black line that I have here in these areas, and I will choose which areas I'm gonna add that line to and which areas I won't. Okay. So let's see, I'm still waiting for some of this stuff to dry. I think I'm gonna do this red part here, but I'm gonna make sure that I don't touch it next to that blue. And if it does, then it does what it does. It's okay. That will then be a loose area instead of a refined area. But adding the yellow, the lemon yellow is warming it up. It's making it not cad red, but it is making it more of a warm red rather than that really cool red. Okay, there it is. And I think this area is dry, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that red to this little lady too. Okay, that's really defined. And then add a little bit of this darker color just on the edge while it's still wet. So that's gonna darken the edge, gonna merge on its own. I'll clean my brush, dry it, and then see if I can lift up a little bit just on the center to keep it consistent with how I was modeling these other ones. And I know that it isn't totally red. It's not totally light at all in the center, but I'm actually just doing this on my own to keep it consistent with the other dolls. And you can see the paint, like I'll lift it up and the paint kind of comes in, like rushes in, because it's still very wet. But there's enough of a lightness there where it is doing what happens on a cylindrical form, where as it comes towards you, there's a little bit of a highlight. So I'm creating that highlight on my own. Okay, got that. And I think now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush because I want to start working on the detail, which means I have to find a smaller brush. Okay, I'm going from this 10 to this 4. I just realized something too, just as an aside. This is a very nice brush. It came with one of the watercolor of my Winsor Newton, and I don't remember ever chewing this paintbrush. I don't know why it looks this way. In fact, actually, I hadn't known why it looked this way until last night when I saw my housemate's cat on my desk gnawing on my brushes. Oh, this is my cat. This is a cat. This is a cat problem. Okay. So I'm using this 4, and then I'm going to use this round 1. Okay. Waiting for all of those things to dry.
That gnawing away is probably because there's salts, from your hands, the oils and salts that come out of your body.
Yeah,
And they like that salty business.
they sure do. They like that business. That's funny. Okay, I'm mixing in a red. I'm gonna work on this area here now. This looks like it's mostly dry, not totally, so I have to be really careful. There's still some wetness there. I know I'm gonna actually leave a little bit of a halo, a space around that. I think that's not bright enough or dark enough or strong enough, saturated enough. So I'm gonna add more paint to my mixture. Okay, and then there is also a red area down here. That's a little wet. And that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and touch it, and if it bleeds, it bleeds. Because at least I have a hard edge on one side. It seems to not be bleeding, which is nice. Okay. I'm gonna do what I did before, add a little bit of a darker color to that area, and then just hit the sides to get a little bit of a darker tone on the edges. To keep that consistent with my modeling the form. I need a little bit more there, just a little bit darker, not too much. And now I'm gonna clean my brush, dry it, and then lift up and center there. It's not really lifting it because it's a little too dry. That's okay. And I'm gonna see if I can lift up on this bottom part. It's still wet. Okay. I've got a feeling of roundness, I suppose. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. That's wet. There's some really nice little tiny details in red on the arm here that I might want to get. But I think probably what I want to do is, and I probably should have done this while it was wet, but I didn't, but the blush on the face. So I'm just gonna do a really light pink. And I'll see if I can just kind of add that in. And it's not going to be smooth, but it's going to be having a hard edge. And I think I'm okay with that. I think this little lady has some down here too. I'm gonna make it a little bit stronger. Okay, so I emphasized a little bit more, exaggerated more than it was. Okay, that looks like it's dry, the green part, and I'm waiting to add those red areas. You see, I'm just kind of bouncing around all over the place, making sure that I only paint in areas that are dry. If I want the edges to be crisp, if I want there to be a softness in value change or color change, I do it when it's wet. The nature of the watercolor medium. All right, what did I say I was gonna do? There is a blue little bag there. I'm gonna paint that little blue bag in. And it's a little dark, so I'm gonna take some of that dark color that I mixed over here with the blue phthalo. Mix it up a little bit so it's darker, and yeah, I'm gonna paint that in. Oh, that's not enough pigment for me. I want it to be a little bit darker. And I really want that to be more vibrant. Yeah. Tip there. There. That's good. Okay. And all right, that's that. I see that there's some, I'm looking at, there's some areas here on this hand that are, this arm that are missing in the yellows, so I can go back and jump in there. I do really feel like I'm jumping around, like there's no, what's it called? I feel kind of frantic in the way that I'm approaching this, but it's also very measured because I don't want to paint and have things bleed into areas. This is yellow, this is also yellow. I didn't really paint that in. Okay. I'm missing some yellow over here. I'm gonna hit this yellow area here too. And maybe define this a little bit more since this is at the edge. And because it's at the edge, I think I'm gonna make this a little bit more orangey, more warmer. And that will be consistent with what I'm doing. I'm gonna get a little bit more red just in that area to make it really a lot darker. And I'll do the same thing on this side here, especially because there's a lot of blue underneath and that blue is coming through the glaze of the yellow. And I could do that a little bit more to this one here too, because I didn't really get that on this little lady. And that's not smooth at all. That's a hard edge, so I'm gonna go in and wet my brush and then just pull that into the center a little bit, but then lift up in the middle. So hopefully that'll soften it up a little bit, but still a little bit light. And I think I want a little bit more of a kind of a skin tone here, skin tone here. Just a little bit there. Okay. Not bad. I'm gonna hit the brown hair parts that are creeping out in between. So that's orange and yellow plus a little bit of blue. Or the red and yellow to make orange, and then a little bit of the blue is going to darken that. I think I need more yellow to make that more of a brown color. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. These are all dry, so I have to be very careful. In fact, I think I want to use this brush here for that. It's so small. Yep, that's good. It's so tiny. I think this needs to have a little bit more pigment. It's not dark enough. So I'm going to keep mixing the red and the yellow with the blue. Just taking the color straight from the palette. Okay, that's a lot better. That's darker. There's just tiny bit right here. I think that's part of the really cute appeal is that little bit of hair, stylized tuft of hair that's just kind of coming around. I'm gonna make sure that's touching. Okay. Okay, line, color, pattern, variety. Now that green area is dry, I'm gonna come in here just straight up with this quinacridone red and see, maybe add a little bit of the yellow to that. And that's gonna be really bright. It's gonna be super bright. So I'm gonna put that right in there. And it's basically very little water. It's very thick paint. And I'm gonna add it to this area too. And there is a little yellow stripe that goes across all of those. I think I'm gonna try and play that in there with a thick layer or thicker yellow. That's two. There we go. Now that this is dry, and I left that area open. Okay. And I think, yeah, that's good. You know, what's really cute is these little red lips. So I think I'm gonna go right into the red and just put a little dot there. With that tiny, tiny, tiny red, tiny, tiny brush. This one's like a heart. And this one's just a little circle. Okay. And let's see, there's a little bit of a red missing here. Forgot about that. Okay. So still very loose. Most of it is pretty loose. To bring more detail in, I'm going to start to do a little bit more of a glaze, I think, on top. So I'm going to do a shadow glaze to reinforce those dark areas that I've already done. And I think that that might be a way to bring a little bit more detail into it. So I'm going to take this blue and this red here, create this purple glaze like this, okay? And I'm going to use it to emphasize the shadow portions of it, okay? It has to be dark enough though, so I have to be able to see it. Okay, so valuing that there, there, the edge here. I'll do that as well along this whole edge of this. All there. I'm going to use this to glaze this bottom part here. I think I want this a little bit darker. Okay, and I keep glazing and go on to the next. See, did I do this part? I didn't do that top part. I'm gonna do this top part too. Oh, the red is running, so I gotta be careful of that red running. I'm basically just taking all the colors on my palette and just mixing them up to get this kind of a darker gray color. Okay, so I'm refining that shadow a bit more. I can even define the shadows on the form around, sorry, on the ground plane. They're not that defined, but I can go ahead and do it if I want. Okay, to kind of unify them. I put them on the surface. Okay. And last, there are some of these little green details on like the leaves that I can add in there too. And I might just do that in just this area here. So I'm gonna leave these two as my loose, and then I'm gonna really just focus on her face and getting more of the detail there on the middle girl, the middle lady. I'm gonna get some of that blue and that yellow, get that really intense green. Make that really vibrant and thick. I want that to be kind of thick, a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. And I'm gonna get that on here. Okay, so that's creating a little bit more of an interesting, it's just so subtle though. I can see if I can make it a little bit darker by adding a bit more blue to it, just so it reads a little better. Okay, so now there's a little bit more definition in that. And another thing that I might do is, something that I'm interested in doing here is the background is darker than the plane, the surface plane that it's sitting on. I'm considering doing a wash of color just on the background above the tabletop to unify that and differentiate the top part from the bottom part. Because right now it's not really differentiated. This is all one big colorful wash. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch back to this brush here, and I'm thinking I'm gonna just take this kind of grayish color that I have here. I'm gonna mix up all my colors on the palette and get this kind of bluish grayish color wash here and see about laying that in. I might want to favor one color a little bit more than the other so it doesn't seem too gray. Yeah, I'll go with the blue. Okay. And now I want to do this kind of quickly. Because I want it to be all one wash, I want there to be a lot of, I need a large volume of paint because I don't want to run out and I don't want to have to mix paint again. All right, a little bit more blue. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start from the top here. That's really, really dark, but that's okay. You have to be really careful as I go around the edges. I'm gonna add a little bit more water there so that it's wet and I can take the time over here. Being very careful with my edges. Okay. Back here, pull this over. That underlying wash of color is still there. It's still informing the painting, but now I'm darkening the value with this blue-gray color.
Larissa, I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
Is the background right now wet at all?
No, the background is completely dry except for what I'm painting on it right now.
Well, I struggle a lot with the background. It gets very streaky. But
Streaky.
yeah,
You need to have enough volume of paint. And you need
and a big brush, and a bigger
big,
brush,
yes, a big brush,
and a lot of
a
volume.
lot of paint.
Okay, okay.
Okay, see, so now, oh, that's nice. I like that. Okay. I'm gonna soak it up here, a little bit there, so it doesn't dry all awkward. Okay, so you see how I made the color that I liked. But I knew that because I wanted to paint this as a wash and I wanted it all to affect that same area without it being streaky, I had to have enough volume of paint so that and I'm using my bigger brush and I paint it all very quickly. Okay. Because when you paint, let's say if you're painting this area here and you're trying to paint this whole area down here. See it? Okay. This is already dry. Look at, see how I'm painting over that and there's a line because it's dry. Once the paint dries on the paper, you get a hard edge. And if you want to paint an area without a hard edge, you have to keep it all wet. The edges of it have to be wet. Now when I paint on top of this, this is gonna have a stroke. And you're gonna see the strokes because I didn't, because I let it dry before I continue painting. All right.
What you did on this painting by having the multicolors behind that wash, that kind of would distract your eye from seeing the streaks too. So
Mm-hmm.
protecting yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I think that's good. What I'm gonna do now is some of it's still drying. I'm gonna come in with the black ink pen. Actually, I'm gonna use the white pen, the gel pen, and see if that works. Wait, and you know what? And this might not work. Boo. Oh, I wonder if he's got, you know what? I think he's got white gouache in here. Yes, there is designer's gouache in there. I'm just gonna use the white. Here's my white right here. I want to make sure it's thick enough, but not too wet, not too blobby. Okay, there's a little bit of white. Let's see what else was I gonna have the white too. I think that was it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm gonna use the black pen. And then also just so you can see the streakiness? That's what happens when you're painting and you don't have enough paint. You go back and this is already dry, you paint over it, then you have this division and you can see the strokes through it. Okay, there you go. All dry. So my paint ink. Ooh, it's still a little wet. I have to be careful. I'm going to use a broken line here. Just to keep it feeling a little loose, light and airy. Okay, this is the, oh, I forgot to do the white part on that little bag there too. This is the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera Christine was talking about. Oh, there's some red areas here that I missed. I didn't get. Back. And I will get the tiny little lady here. There's a lot more line that I'm adding. I'm only adding a small amount here. Look at all this line that's there. Oh wait, you can't see it, sorry. That's all the line that's there, and I'm only adding a tiny bit of it. Okay, I'm gonna call it done. All right, so loose, very, very loose, started out, refined things a little bit more. Added more detail. I can even go, oh no, I'm gonna do one more thing. One more thing. See, I'm seeing it. You know, I wanna do it. I just wanna make this area just a little bit darker down here, and I'm gonna add this blue. Yeah, that just kind of solidifies a little bit more on the surface. Makes it a little bit heavier visually. The visual weight of her is a little bit heavier. And yeah, okay. What do you guys think?
I love it.
Look, it's great.
Very lovely.
Thank you. Pretty fun. I had no idea how that was gonna come out. But
Fascinating. This is fascinating because there are two things going on. I'm watching you as a painter doing the two-dimensional painting, and then you are all at the same time. I also see the actual artist who is painting the dolls, the
Mhm.
three-dimensional one, and they have some traditional techniques, I believe. So they're using those techniques, like a little round dot for the lips, and those are like conventions that the nesting doll artist is doing. And then
Mhm.
you are the other artist, and I see these two processes going on. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, you're right. It's so true that, yeah, you're seeing the style of the art of the Matryoshka doll. I think I said that. I don't know if I said that right. And then how I'm interpreting it. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now.